Hi everyone, welcome to the International Relations Roundtable, International Papers and Projects session. My name is Nurhak Tuncer and I'm originally from Turkey. And I am the music librarian at Elizabeth State University in North Carolina. Today, I am with Jana de Brouwer, and we are the members of the International Relations Roundtable, and we are serving as this year's moderators. We prepared an excellent session for you and together with the rest of our team, and we are excited to have you join us today. This session aims to provide librarians with an opportunity to exchange information about library services and projects worldwide. And today we are featuring library projects from China, United States, and Singapore.
Hi, my name is Jana de Brouwer. I'm originally from Prague, Czech Republic, but I have been in library field for about 16 years. I work as a program manager for San Francisco Public Library in the Department of Business Science and Technology. And last year, this past year, I have been deployed as a city disaster worker to take part in contact tracing and case investigation. I'm back in the library now to my previous role of the program manager. And I am excited to be part of this recording. The topic our committee selected for this year's ALA conference is Strengthening Societies, Libraries as Critical Institutions in Helping Communities Manage Change. So today, our speakers from around the world will share their success stories and how the services they provided played a crucial role in keeping their communities strong and resilient during the pandemic. The titles of the individual presentations are on the screen for your reference. We will leave the detailed introductions to the presenters themselves.
Hello, and thank you for attending our presentation today. Our presentation is entitled Reimagining Diversity at the Leatherby Libraries, a Strategy for Success. My name is Kevin Ross, and I'm the interim dean of the Leatherby Libraries at Chapman University.
And my name is Esther Nawar, and I'm the Leatherby Libraries Development Librarian.
I would like to share some brief information on the connection between Chapman University and diversity-related initiatives. Chapman University is deeply committed to enriching diversity and inclusion through ongoing efforts to cultivate a welcoming campus climate for all members of the Chapman community. We strive to provide an inclusive academic curriculum, promote equity in access and recruitment and retention, and develop meaningful outreach programs and partnerships with our diverse communities. We value diversity and inclusion in the learning environment and believe it is vital to the fulfillment of the university mission. It is our conviction that an inclusive learning environment facilitates complex, critical, and creative thinking, and that differences in identities, values, beliefs, and perspectives are fundamental to a comprehensive education. Just some brief demographic information. 20% of our current student population are first-generation students, 40% identify as people of color, 40% are male, and 60% are female. Today, Esra and I will focus on three objectives. First, an explanation of the essential elements of our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. Second, how we promote archival collections that emphasize people of color. And third, a focus on our first ever virtual exhibit entitled Telling Stories, One Room at a Time. This is our first objective, which focuses on our diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. Esra and I recently completed a DEI certification from the University of South Florida. Throughout this certification process, Esra and I learned many new things about DEI that we didn't know previously. We do know that diversity is valued by Chapman University and our own Leatherby Libraries. We even made diversity one of our organizational goals to make sure that we have that connection to our future strategic plans. Based on Esra's background and experience working with diversity-related initiatives and scholarship, I asked Esra if she would be willing to lead our diversity efforts on behalf of the library, and she has graciously agreed to do so.
It's been an exciting process to actually put together the DEI plan for the Leatherby Libraries. What I've done for the last 6 months is to look at about a dozen other university plans, mainly some of our peers, some of our aspiring institutions, and some of the well-known diversity plans of academic libraries across the country. I made sure that I also look at the American Library Association standards, diversity standards, the Association of Colleges and Research Libraries diversity standards, the IFLA, which is the International Federation of Library Association standards, as well as WASC and CARL, and some other local institutions that we work with. I made sure that there are core elements to the plan, which is the purpose, mission, and vision that are directly related to diversity, goals and objectives, definitely an assessment piece, recruitment and retention, training, coaching, mentoring, and professional development opportunities for staff and librarians. Our diversity plan is actually very well aligned to the Chapman University core plan, diversity and inclusion plan, which was developed a couple years ago. There are five focuses of the plan. There's a curriculum piece, which expands diversity and inclusion in information literacy, specifically in student learning outcomes. There's a piece about recruitment that strengthens the equity and access in recruitment across students and staff and librarians. There's a piece about climate where we develop and implement programs, services, resources, and physical spaces that cultivate a welcoming environment. We also are going to focus on the community where we develop a lot of partnerships and programs with our diverse local communities. And of course, we prioritize diversity and inclusion across all departments and levels of the library. In fact, our diversity efforts were recently recognized by the Council for Advancement and Support of Education. And please feel free to go to this link and read a little bit more about the projects that we've been working on for the last few years that were recently recognized by this award.
The next few slides really focus on our objective 2 and how we have committed to promoting archival collections that emphasize people of color. This specific slide is a slide that covers a scrapbook from Orange County Japanese American youth. This scrapbook was compiled by members of the Orange County Japanese American Youth Organization, known as the OCJs, who were prominent in the 1950s and 1960s. OCJs was founded in 1954 under the organizational umbrella of Japanese American Citizens League. Many members were teenagers and young adults when they contributed photographs, clippings, correspondence, and pieces of ephemera regarding their organizational social life. Events included intercultural meetings with Latino and Latinx youth and wider JACL-sponsored events. Some notable photographs that were included in this scrapbook include photos of Louis Zamperini and Walter Knott. A second archive that emphasizes people of color we refer to as the Mendez et al. Versus Westminster et al. Archive. For those of you that study history, you may remember that this was the 1947 case that led actually to the 1954 approval of the Board versus Brown versus Education case. The archive in the Leatherby Libraries is based on the April 14, 1947 ruling by the United States Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, upholding an earlier decision in a class action suit brought by the Mendez, Estrada, Guzman, Palomino, and Ramirez families against school districts in Westminster, Garden Grove, Santa Ana, and El Modena on behalf of 5,000 others after United States-born children of Latino descent were forced to attend inferior Mexican schools, even though some had family members who fought for the United States overseas in World War II. 2 months after the final Mendez decision, the California legislature passed a bill ending segregation in all of the state's public schools. It was signed into law by Governor Earl Warren, who 7 years later, as Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, would write the court's final decision in Brown versus Board of Education.
Our third archival collection that emphasizes people of color is our Seek initiatives at Chapman University. The Chapman University and the Leatherby Libraries has been enjoying a 10-year relationship with the Sikh community, with the local, national, and regional Sikh community in the United States. One of the board members of the Chapman University Board of Governors is a Sikh Indian, and he's approached the library and the university to create a yearly film festival, a yearly exhibit, yearly events, yearly Vaisakhi, which is the Sikh religious holiday. And we've actually enjoyed this partnership, and all the information that we get out of this partnership from exhibits, from pamphlets, from photographs are actually deposited in our digital commons, which is actually widely accessible by people around the world. And Kevin is actually going to explain a little bit more about that.
Chapman University's Digital Commons is an open access digital repository designed to collect, store, index, and provide access to the scholarly and creative output of Chapman University faculty, students, and staff. In it are faculty research papers, books, data sets, outstanding student work, audiovisual materials, images, special collections, and more, all created by members of or owned by Chapman University. As Ezra mentioned, this is a publicly accessible archive, and you may take note that there's over 30,000 total objects in this repository, as well as those items have been downloaded over 1.6 million times. So it's a very highly useful tool to celebrate and to emphasize what we do in regards to diversity scholarship and initiatives. This is the beginning of our third objective, and so the next few slides we'll talk just briefly about our first ever virtual exhibit, which really connected our story rooms with the concepts of diversity. There's 4 study rooms that we would like to highlight today. Esther will talk about the first 2, and I will talk about the last 2.
All right, just briefly, I want to mention the concept of story rooms that was developed about 8 years ago as a part of our fundraising efforts, where we actually encouraged a lot of our donors and local community members to help us honor some of our professors, some of our community members, some of our faculty as well, and highlighting some communities that you will see actually in that virtual exhibit. Please make sure to go back and look for yourself how amazing this exhibit turned out to be, because what we've done is we took 6 of our prominent story rooms, or as we call the study rooms, and we turned them into a virtual exhibit. And I also want to make sure that I acknowledge my colleague Rachel Karras, and also our colleagues in the legal department and ISNT, who helped us tremendously put this together. Right here, we are highlighting the Virginia G. Carson story room, and Virginia Carson is actually one of our prominent emeritus professors. She is a woman in science, and we wanted to make sure that we highlight her story. There's a lot of quotes by her highlighted across the room. There's photographs of her awards as well as of her career. And highlighted here also is one of her doctoral students who actually ended up being a medical doctor, Dr. Zohra Musharraf, pointing out to her name, as well as about 500 names of other students who ended up being medical doctors as well. So we actually thought that this room focuses on women in science, and is definitely a concept of diversity that we focus on. Our second room is the Sikhs and Sikhism in America group study room. And as I mentioned earlier, the university and the library has a good and a solid partnership with the Sikh community. In fact, in 2017, a prominent community member in Orange County gave funding for us to actually create this room. And as you can see on the walls, there is a famous Sikh Americans portraits of people from across the country, some of them that you probably have never heard about, like the CEO of MasterCard and a famous NBA player who also happens to be a Sikh. Right here, you can see that our president, Dr. Daniele Strupa, has attended the actually opening ceremony and the ribbon cutting ceremony of the dedication of this room, which actually validates what we're saying, that the university itself is focused on diversity and inclusion. This specific room is widely accessible to the students. They enjoy actually a lot of information, including an iPad, including information about the Sikh religion, the culture, the turban, and there's also a lot of books for them to check out and learn more about the Sikh religion.
The Italian Heritage Study Room was dedicated in November 2012 to the memory of John N. LaCourte, an Italian-American entrepreneur and founder of the Italian Historical Society of America. LaCourte dedicated his life to the recognition of all Italians who have made historic contributions to the United States. LaCourte founded the Italian Historical Society of America in 1949 to show that not all Italian Americans were involved in organized crime. The focus was to commemorate the accomplishments of great Italians and Italian Americans. His greatest achievement was the naming of the bridge which spans Brooklyn and Staten Island, the Ocean Gateway to New York, after the Florentine navigator Giovanni da Verrazzano, the first European to enter New York Harbor almost 500 years ago in 1524. A prodigious correspondent, Henry Temianka maintained important relationships with the musicians, artists, writers, and political leaders of the 20th century. He preserved most of the letters he received, dating from 1922. His son, Dr. Daniel Temianka, has organized, protected, and interpreted these letters and other items in the Henry Temianka archives. Chapman University is now the proud recipient of this archive. The archive contains over 1,500 letters, program flyers, photographs, ephemera, and memorabilia of Henry Temianka's career. This concludes our presentation at this time, and both Esther and I would like to thank all of you who attended. We do want to provide our contact information, so we've included our phone numbers and our email addresses for any follow-up questions, and we will do our best to respond to you in a timely manner. Thank you for listening today, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to receiving.
For the past year or so, we have been fighting COVID-19. Many of us see great changes in our daily lives. How then can libraries play a role in the current situation for inclusive digital learning? Follow me as we take a look at what the National Library Board of Singapore has done. Welcome to Tampines Regional Library in the eastern part of Singapore. I'm Pixia, and together with my colleague Lillian, we are here today to show how National Library Board of Singapore has championed inclusive digital learning at our libraries. For many years, the understanding of technology and digital solution has always been a beneficial skill. This is true, especially in Singapore, where almost every resident aged 15 years and above is literate. The ability to harness the power of technology was driven mainly by economic benefits brought about by the rise in Industry 4.0. Learning and adoption of technology blossomed among professionals, accredited sectoral groups, and institutes of higher learning. The pandemic has accelerated the need for everyone to be digitally savvy. Learning support, as well as access to digital devices and services, allow for better job opportunities and improved quality of life. Businesses had to transform to survive via social media marketing, live streaming, and e-commerce. Children and teens, too, had to adapt by continuing their education online, using digital media and creating digital content to facilitate learning. Adults and seniors, too, were faced with a new way of life, having to familiarize themselves with online shoppings, video calls, esports, telehealth, robot cleaners, working from home, And the list continues. Undeniably, those who had lesser digital capabilities suffered. It is clear that learning support, as well as access to digital devices and services, allow for better job opportunities and improved quality of life.
Can libraries play a role in this change? As a knowledge curator, community builder, and social equalizer, libraries can play a role in the nation's effort to upskill its people and develop a smart nation. Unlike formal education, learning at the libraries is highly independent, self-driven, and can be spurred from intrinsic desires to explore. Since libraries welcome patrons from all walks of life with different learning styles and interests, these learning opportunities should be accessible to everyone. From Singapore's national goal to get its people digitally ready, the National Library Board of Singapore introduced a digital literacy learning framework with 5 pillars of learning. These 5 pillars caters to the diverse learning needs of library users. Guided by the framework, librarians can then scaffold and curate programs and resources for different age groups with the aim of inspiring joy in learning.
Well, the learning of digital technologies is not just about understanding how technologies work, but also on how to apply them. Technology is but a tool. When fused appropriately with different domains, sparks innovation. This is when the regular support of a learning community becomes important, which allows for the leveraging of vast knowledge and expertise within the group, encouraging the building of new ideas. Libraries support the growth of learning communities through the resources that are provided in these common spaces, like our makerspaces. Librarians facilitate the natural congregations of like-minded individuals where readers put their thoughts into action, advocating the usage of digital technologies. As a quick examples, ever since the pandemic, community building at our makerspaces has been taken beyond the physical space into social media like Facebook, as well as other digital media platforms. As publicly funded libraries, the resources, services, and programs are open to all and generally provided free of charge for our members. With the physical limitations imposed during the pandemic, there has been a large increase in demand for NLB digital offerings. But members who are not as digitally savvy will miss the opportunity to benefit from such services. To bridge the digital divide, there has been a need to get our library members digitally ready. In these recent years, much emphasis has been put on the need to increase digital literacy among seniors and other disadvantaged groups. My colleague Lillian will share with us more.
Thank you, Pixia. Hi, I'm Lillian, Deputy Head from the Seniors team. So in general, we like to follow these 3 key guiding principles when encouraging seniors to pick up technology. And they are, number 1, keeping it free or low cost. This is to make learning accessible to everyone. 2, variety, to ensure that we have a good spread of topics across different learning platforms. 3, peer learning, to allow seniors to have healthy discussions with their peers to encourage learning. So let me go into more details on these guiding principles. So on the point of keeping our programs free or low costly, we feel that it is important as most seniors are already retired. Being able to pick up new relevant skills for free or at a low affordable cost is a very big pull factor for them. At our libraries, our multimedia stations provide 1 hour of free internet access daily for seniors aged 50 and above. We also collaborate with volunteers and partners to bring in free or subsidized programs so that learning can be easily accessible to all. Such programs include learning how to use WhatsApp, do video editing, and even learning how to program a microbit to build your own fitness tracker, amongst many others. We also provide free access to our makerspaces to encourage our seniors to tinker and learn. When it comes to picking up digital skills, our seniors belong on a wide spectrum, from those taking their first steps into the digital world to those who are already very savvy and are looking at challenging themselves further, perhaps at our makerspaces. As such, it is important that we cater to all seniors on this digital spectrum, providing a wide variety of programs at varying levels of digital literacy. For those who are just getting started on their digital journey, one-on-one consultations work best, as each person learns at their own pace, and personalized guidance will be the most effective. Provision of senior-focused workshops allow seniors to learn together with their peers at a pace that is comfortable for them. It also creates a safe environment for them to learn and ask questions. Learning journeys help to reinforce their learning by giving them opportunities to try out their newfound skills in real-life applications. So we try to ensure that there are ample opportunities for our seniors to interact and learn from one another, as we have discovered that peer learning is very effective. As shared earlier by Pixia, we have senior learning communities such as our monthly IT talks and the video creators clubs, which are facilitated by seniors too. With learning communities, participants motivate one another to learn together as a group. In 2020, as many of us were cooped up in our homes due to COVID, there was a push for seniors to become digitally ready to enjoy the conveniences of living in a digital world. We collaborated with Singapore's Infocom Media Development Authority in a nationwide movement to help seniors pick up digital skills. These consisted of the SG digital offices located at all our 25 public libraries, and they provide one-on-one guidance covering on basic communication, digital government services, and e-payment. We also collaborated with them on the library learning journeys, which are conducted monthly at our libraries to equip participants with basic knowledge on the library's digital services. To ensure that learning does not stop even when the libraries were closed during the circuit breaker period, our libraries brought in learning onto the online realm via the Stay Home series. So these included the Stay Home and Read, Stay Home and Learn, and Stay Home and Play. So Stay Home and Read is on reading and on recommending the library's digital resources. Using the recommended ebooks, librarians curated various talks and hands-on activities to make learning fun and interactive. Stay Home and Learn included collaboration with partners and volunteers to bring in online programs that cover a wide range of topics ranging from health, the arts, IT, etc. This also included learning communities like the ukulele, the crafting, and the IT clubs so that members could still continue to meet and learn in the online space. Stay Home and Play included librarian-curated content such as bingo, trivia, and quizzes to help seniors stay engaged and mentally active.
Thank you, Lillian. As the world moves slowly towards a new normal, many have recognized the changes that COVID-19 has brought about to our way of living. As we embrace a more digitally literate and inclusive society, the social learning gelatine that is brought about by libraries has its place in defining the heart of knowledge. We hope our sharing has given you some useful tips on what you can do at your libraries. Stay safe and have a great day ahead.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Zizhou Wang.
And my name is Xiaofang Zhang. We are from the research team on the development of non-government libraries in Peking University. And right now, I will be going through this slide and introducing to you our research project, Little Free Classes in Rural Non-Government Libraries, a project that combines online resources with offline learning for left-behind children. First of all, let's talk about the background. Recent years, online education has become increasingly popular in China, especially during the epidemic in 2020. Online education can not only connect the distant learning resources, but also allows students to learn in their own way, helping to address the problems of inequitable distribution of educational resources between the urban and rural areas. To help a large number of left-behind rural children and to activate library service during the social isolation time, we launched a project called LGS Little Free Class in June 2020. It should be noted that Little Free Class is a complex of online resources and offline learning, which not only ensures rural children's access to high-quality online educational resources, but also creates a good environment for left-behind children to communicate and share emotionally and intellectually. In this project, a rural non-government library is regarded as a learning center whose librarians organize young patrons to learn from online videos and practice offline afterwards. The educational resources for Little Free Classes are collected from the internet or originally created by the project team. Young patrons can engage in both practicing and extended reading. From June to December, the project has been implemented for 7 months within 1 test circle and 2 official circles. There have been 91 Little Free Classes held and 9 rural non-government libraries involved in this project. The cumulative number of children participated in was 860. Each class had 9 to 10 children on average. And what we had were mixed age classes. The ages of participants ranged from 4 to 19 years old, and the majority was children from 7 to 13 years old. You can find it in this diagram. The majority is 91% in total. Although the project was implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic, as you can see in these pictures, all the Little Free Classes were held in the reading room of rural libraries. Provided that the local epidemic was under control, there was no social distance between the librarians and the children. In average, a Little Free Class lasts for 120 minutes, of which about 45 minutes was for learning and the other was for reading relative materials or gaming together. The librarian will guide the children to watch online video, to practice offline, and to do extensive reading. There were various topics taught in Little Free Classes. Some were self-developed courses by rural libraries in each province, in line with their local circumstances, as listed in this table, such as paper cutting design, painting by grain, painting by leaves, and so on. Besides, there was also a common curriculum developed by the project team for all the libraries. That was the design of paper circuit. Let's take a non-government library called the Fence Library in Jiangsu Province, for example. The librarian designed a Little Free Class with the topic of painting by leaves. Children who participated in this class watched an online art video, then went into the library's garden collecting leaves, and finally made a piece of DIY work. There are also other examples of learning on different topics, such as the session of handkerchief dyeing in Farm Women's Library in Hebei Province, and the session of paper circuit design in all different libraries. In these classes, children in different provinces learned the knowledge of electric circuits and made their own creative paper circuit works. So what we achieved from the project, on children's part, the Little Free Classes in rural libraries played the dual role in helping them. On the one hand, they promote active learning and participatory learning for children. On the other hand, they enhance children's self-confidence, social skills, and enrich their spiritual world. According to the data collected in the past 91 classes, we had generated three aspects of children's needs which had been fulfilled. First is the need of knowledge. For example, I hope to hear more stories. Second is the need of abilities. For example, I wish to make something fun by my own. Third is the need of emotional care. For example, I hope we can help each other next time. On the last particularly, many left behind rural children benefit from attending little free classes emotionally, such as feeling of being loved, of achieving something, of belonging to the collective, and of being respected and recognized. Additionally, from a more macro point of view, the project also helped to address the imbalance of education resource distributed in urban and rural areas. The little free classes in rural libraries can bring high-quality online educational resources to rural children on their own initiative, guiding them to further explore the world beyond the school textbooks. In this way, the little free classes has fulfilled the information puzzle in rural education, and to some extent, bridged the gaps of learning resources between urban and rural children. After 7 months practical experience and multiple communications, we have identified two distinctive highlights of the LGS Little Free Class project. Firstly, the project can make up for the lack of public library service provided by the government. China's public libraries are mainly located in cities, and there is a general lack of libraries in rural areas. Rural non-government libraries carrying out little free classes is conducive to solve the dual problems of knowledge poverty and spiritual poverty of rural children. It provides some compensation for the shortage of public library service. Secondly, the project adopts cross-media reading and participatory learning to activate the social education function of rural libraries. Here is another story from the project. Ms. Li, the librarian of Weiguang Library, held a little free class of paper plane design. When the children read about the history of aircraft inventions and searched for videos to learn how to fold various types of paper planes for a flying competition, given continuous learning and tests, many children in this session attached a cone to the plane and improved the folding method to make the plane fly further. Our project of LGS Little Free
Class is sustainable because it is flexible to accommodate different topics to design the little classes. Also, it requires more investment. Over the past 3 cycles, the project team has invested about $5,300 to support 91 different little free classes, which have been very welcomed by rural children and the community. Despite of a stable sponsorship, a dedicated professional team also ensures the sustainable development. Therefore, the project will continue and expand after the pandemic. The third official circle went home and completed in May 2021. Continually, we believe there is much more to be expected in the future. So I will leave it there and thank you for watching. and we are looking forward to further conversation.
Welcome to contact us. This is our information. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. For the Q&A session of this presentation that we prepared for you together with my committee members, and unfortunately today we had to record this year's Q&A session for you. And if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the speakers. Our committee co-chairs Felicia and Mira are with me today, and they will be also helping me to facilitate some of the questions. Now it's on you, Felicia.
So I just wanted to say that, it feels like everyone had so much good content that it feels like each session should be dedicated to one of you, but we're going to try and answer some of the things that didn't manage to come into the actual presentation so we can find out more. So Mira will be asking the first question to China.
What I would like to know is the difference between the skills of urban children and rural children. And I also would like to know if the rural children were able to use computers at home, did they have internet connection in order to continue learning on their own? Thank you.
Thank you, Mira. I'm Xiaofang. I will answer your question step by step. First, compared to the urban children, rural children, they are mainly lack of learning resources. As you may know, children in the city, they can get diversified resources to learn at home, in school, and in their communities. There are many public cultural facilities in the cities, such as museums, art galleries, children's center, and so on. But for the rural children, the extracurricular reading materials, they are not always available for them. And the rural primary schools, they always have this difficulty to recruit good teachers to provide a high quality education for the rural children. And sure, the rural children nowadays, they can have access to computers and internet. In our little free classes, children, they can use the computer in the library to access the internet. Some rural children, they have computers at home, and some even have their own mobile phones. However, the computer literacy of rural children is not good enough. I mean, their awareness of using the computers or the mobile phones to access learning resources are relatively weak than the urban children. I remember that one of our librarians told us that the rural children, they spend most of their internet time in watching TikTok videos and playing the online games. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, just and a follow-up question quickly. So did you have different programs for younger children versus the older group?
As you may know from the presentation, that we have this mixed age classes. Yeah, I think this is some difficulty in our project. We initially designed this program for children about 6th and 3rd grade children, but those in many cases. The older brothers, sisters in the villages, they come together with their younger siblings. Okay. When some very young children or very old children, they come, we just welcome them to participate. Though we find that this mixed age class really bring about the problem that poor learning effect. At present, we have no good solution to this problem. If you have any suggestion, we would very appreciate that we have your suggestions or your solutions to provide us. But we do notice that in these little free classes, the older children, they will help the younger ones to finish their learning tasks. And some librarians in the class, they will invite the older ones to serve as volunteers in these classes.
It's nice.
We encourage these attempts, and we hope that we can find solutions in such very interesting attempts.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Xiaofang. I now have a question for Singapore. So, you mentioned that you provide computer access in the library, but what about seniors who don't have access to a computer at home? How are they connecting to the library services? And also, could you maybe share about some of the support that you provide seniors who are not comfortable or familiar with digital platforms?
Yeah, thank you, Felicia. Hi. So for seniors who don't have access to computers or laptops at home, so or they have mobile devices or not sure how to actually use them, we set up the SG digital booths at our libraries to actually help to address some of the issues that they face with technology and going digital. So these digital booths are available at our library daily, from around 10:30 to 11 in the morning to 7 to 8 p.m. at night. So they can walk in and have a one-to-one consultation with our digital ambassadors. They can also register for their preferred time slots online. So a lot of our library resources, digital resources, are accessible via our mobile devices, be it computer, laptops, or even iPads or mobile phones. So one of it would be like how to connect to our free Wi-Fi in the library, and also to access maybe our NLB mobile app, and how to connect their library ID or use the services that's available on the NLB mobile app. The third one would be to allow them to learn how to scan QR codes. Because a lot of times in our libraries, QR codes is used frequently for our book displays or even some of our posters. So when it's scanned, they will be brought to the details on how to access these resources. The other one would be to how to use or access e-newspapers in our libraries. So these are like conducted in stations, in small groups. So the seniors will be brought about by the digital ambassadors in the library from stations to stations. So they got a very fun and interesting time learning the various services.
Thanks, Pixia. So now maybe Minhak, you have a question for our American friends, right?
My first question will be to Esra. Esra, have you had any challenges and obstacles in implementing your diversity plan? Could you please tell us about that a little bit, and how do you prioritize your plan?
Thank you so much, Norhak, for that question. And we're very honored to be part of this panel. Well, Chapman University is deeply committed to enriching diversity and inclusion through all the ongoing efforts to cultivate a welcoming Chapman climate. And the Leatherby Libraries, of course, is in alignment with these efforts. This is a recently developed plan. We completed the draft earlier this year, and all the pieces that we've implemented so far, we had no challenges in them. And the reason for that is that are a couple things. It's due to the university's commitment to diversity, which started in 2015 with a huge task force and committees that were across campus that tackled diversity from all perspectives, from socioeconomic statuses to sexual orientation to physical access, everything diversity. So we had all that support from senior administrator and from the library administration as well. We also are committed and we developed our diversity plan after looking at about 12 other academic university libraries plans. And we made sure that our plan is actually in alignment with the university. And that's how we prioritize our diversity initiatives across the library as well. We're also getting buy-in from different staff members, from different chairs as well. And even though I was assigned to create the diversity plan, I work closely with the interim dean, Dr. Kevin Ross, to make sure that we actually implement initiatives that are in alignment with also the strategic plan of the library. And the diversity is actually strategic goal number 2 for the libraries.
Wow, very impressive. Thank you so much for your detailed reply, Esra. And my next question will be to Kevin. Kevin, could you please share some of the learning points and how you plan to continue seeking opportunities to diversify for students, faculty, and staff?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Nahar. Appreciate it. First off, we are going to continue to identify and really strengthen our relationships with other diverse Chapman communities across campus. And we've already reached out to different student organizations, to different departments, colleges, and schools across campus to make that happen. One recent example of that is we collaborated with the Office of Research, with our Wilkinson College faculty members from the library, and also from the Office of the President to initiate a grant that we were able to be successful at. And that grant was focused on obtaining the Black Historical Newspapers collection from ProQuest, which is around $90,000 or so. It's a lot of money to do that. The grant itself was only $15,000. So you can see that we were about $75,000 short. So we really had to find partnerships across campus to fund that particular service and that particular resource. So that's just one example. And we will continue to identify other services that are related to diversity that we may or may not be currently offering. And we plan on doing that partly through assessment, through focus groups, surveys, and those kind of techniques as well. I would also say we did provide access, and that's a big part for, especially during the pandemic, for people with disabilities, et cetera, is getting the access. And so we were able to provide access online to our LibGuides. And we had LibGuides created for our LGBTQ+ community, our Asian Studies community, our Africana Studies community, our Latinx communities, and our Women's Studies community. So we have LibGuides for all of those, and all of those LibGuides are very robust. They have a lot of resources, a lot of services that are provided on those LibGuides that directly relate to those diversity-related topics. Second, we do make a formal effort to really try to develop our staff's cultural awareness and their cultural competencies as they relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're going to be holding a series of workshops in the future that allow the staff to make sure that they understand that all stakeholders deserve respect and all stakeholders have to be treated in an equitable fashion. Third, we plan on doing an assessment piece, kind of a deep dive in assessment, as I mentioned earlier, to really identify areas where we can improve and offer other diversity-related services that we currently don't offer. And again, we'll use, the standard techniques that we'll use for assessment will be focus groups, surveys, observation, informal interviews, and those kind of things to really try to get from the student's perspective and the faculty perspective what services we can provide that will really meet their diversity-related needs.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for the detailed answer again. Now we have two more general questions that Felicia will take over, and we have totally 5 minutes left. Felicia, it's on you.
Okay. Yes, actually, just kind of to bring us back to the theme of the session. So could you kind of briefly share if the pandemic has changed the way you've implemented your projects, whether it has affected the decisions you made, some of the things you changed and some of your notable experiences?
As we all know, the pandemic was challenging for all of us. At the Leatherby Libraries, it was around March 12th or so. We got the request from senior administration to vacate the campus and to move our operations to a remote process. We were able to do that within just a couple of days. It was very challenging for all of us, but making sure everybody had the right laptop and the right webcam and those kind of things. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But a really great example was really led by Esra and a colleague of hers named Rachel, where normally we would do physical exhibits, we would do physical displays across campus, just kind of periodically. We'd have different themes. We'd try to match up with some diversity related themes throughout the year, Black History Month, for example, Pride Month, for example. But they came up with an idea to highlight our story rooms, and our story rooms are really unique. And this was the previous dean's activity along with Esra's activity, and they were able to create the story room process. And the story rooms that we've created, they have a diversity related theme. So for example, we have a Sikh room, we have an Italian studies room, We have a women in science room, for example. And so we were able to take some of these story rooms and turn this into an online virtual exhibit. And I think that just made it way more accessible for those of us that couldn't get back onto campus for the past year. We were still able to tie in our diversity, equity, inclusion themes. And we don't just focus on, you know, sexual orientation or ethnicity or race. We also focus on diversity of thought. And so we try to be pretty thoughtful when we create these exhibits. And again, I want to give a shout out to Esther and Rachel. They did an excellent job of providing information to make this virtual exhibit really happen. So that was one of the ways that we tried to bring in the community a little bit. We tried to provide access to you know, materials and resources that normally they would not be able to access. And we tried to do that in an online environment, just to give a wide variety of coverage to all of our stakeholders that may have been interested.
Okay, how to say that? Yes, the pandemic really brings many challenges to us. Actually, before our Little Free class project, we have been working on the Rural Children's Reading Project for many years. We have supported Book Corners project in rural schools and so on. The pandemic in 2020 drew our attention to the role of online education source in helping rural children. Therefore, the project was launched in this context of the pandemic. With these schools closed, rural children were socially isolated at home. But unlike the urban children, they didn't get special care from their parents, and they didn't get enough these extracurricular books to read, and they got a few online classes to spend their time on. So we started this project in the areas where the epidemic was under control. So the librarian can have these classes to attract these rural children to study and read in the library. We have all the parents in the rural areas that were very supportive. They were very glad that their children could be learning something in the library rather than hanging out around in the villages. Because you know, back that time, it is not very safe. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very nice work.
Yeah. So for Singapore, I think we concur very much with what Kevin and Xiaofang just shared. The pandemic really pushes us to, you know, go online, and in Singapore, we changed a lot of our services to digitally available. So including our ebooks, our e-magazines, our e-collections get a very huge take-up rate. So in fact, even now, a lot of our programs are also still in the online or hybrid mode. Yeah, so there is really a change in how we provide our services to our patrons. I think especially for the seniors, we were very glad that, you know, we are part of the effort to help the seniors level up, because the pandemic really affects their daily life if they don't have the knowledge on how to go digital. So it could be as simple as, you know, buying their groceries, grabbing some, or having some food deliveries, or even, you know, communicating with their loved ones. So I think the libraries has played an important role in helping our seniors and the disadvantaged groups to level up in terms of as part of this pandemic.
I want to say something, just how amazed I am at all the wonderful work that all of you are doing. And I'm so proud of our libraries. I mean, we have representation from China, from Singapore, the United States. And if you look at it, we're talking about university setting, we're talking about working with seniors, we're talking about working with children. And what a difference your libraries have made. I'm sure they're always making, but especially during this very difficult time. Thank you so very much.